Hey guys, back again with another review. Grandia 2, a sequel to one of my favorite PS1 RPGs. I played it. I think it's probably been 2 years ago now, and I really enjoyed my time with that game. And that's one of those RPGs that a lot of people seem to really dig. And yeah, I thought it was a great game, and so I've always wanted to play the sequel because most people think it's actually better than the first game, from what I've seen. So I was definitely excited to finally play the game. Unfortunately, for the longest time, it's only kind of been on Dreamcast and PS2. And actually, there's a PC version, like an old PC version, but the PS2 version has some like extreme slowdown issues, especially in towns, and some loading times. The loading times are a little rough, so I didn't really want to play the PS2 version. And the Dreamcast version is fairly expensive, at least. Well, it's not like crazy expensive, but it's a little more than I want to pay, basically. So yeah, luckily a Steam version came out not too long ago, which is basically the Dreamcast version, but with 60 FPS battles. But the rest of the game is in 30 FPS, and it's a good port. Unfortunately, it did crash on me twice, and I lost like around 20 minutes of progress, which sucked, but all I had to do was change it to Windows XP compatibility mode, and then that fixed it. It never crashed again. So overall, the port is highly recommended if you've been wanting to play Grandia 2 and you have Steam. Definitely check it out on PC, which is where I played it, of course. So yeah, let's talk about Grandia 2. We'll start with the story, of course. Now, the first Grandia didn't... it didn't have an amazing story. It had a pretty simple kind of save the world storyline, but the characters were fantastic. And that's the same with Grandia 2, actually. The story is a little more complex in this game. Basically, your main character is Ryudu. I think that's how it's pronounced. And he's a geohound, and a geohound in this world is basically a mercenary, and this takes place like thousands of years after the original Grandia. And you kind of meet a songstress named Elena, and she's a songstress for the Church of Granus, which is like kind of like the main church in this world. And you have to kind of escort her to meet the Pope because of a certain incident that happens early in the game that I don't really want to spoil. And along the way, it becomes kind of a save the world storyline, but there's some interesting aspects to it. It's got a very heavy religious themes in this game. Now, I don't really want to spoil how exactly what those religious themes are like and how it kind of deals with religion and kind of what this game has to say about religion. But I thought it was pretty interesting. And the main villain, I don't want to. Of course, I don't want to spoil the main villain either. But the main villain in this game is so over the top. The main villain is pretty awesome, but very predictable too. You'll probably easily guess who the main villain kind of is fairly early in the game, I would say. So yeah, like with the first game, the story's not amazing, but the characters are great. Ryudu is probably one of my favorite main characters in an RPG. He kind of starts out as kind of like a wise ass, almost a jerk, but not quite. And he doesn't let feelings get in the way. He's just focused on being a mercenary, and he doesn't get too close to people. And throughout the journey with Elena, he kind of grows as a person, and he changes, which is it's cool to see. And he starts off likable, and he has there's all these lines of dialogue that come from him that made me laugh. Like the localization for when this game came out is actually quite good. So yeah, a really strong main character. There's a few other characters I really liked. The other character is Merrick. He comes a little later in the story, but he's kind of like almost a wise sage type character. He's pretty awesome. Elena, I'm not as crazy about. I preferred Fina in the Grandia as far as like the kind of romantic interest of sorts to the main character. I found Elena was just kind of annoying, and the voice actress for her, Jennifer Hale, which usually I like, for whatever reason, the voice she has for Elena is just really grating. Like I don't know, it just really bothers me. I might be alone on that, but it bothered me, and her personality overall I wasn't crazy about. So unfortunately, I didn't like her too much. And then you have like Rowan. He's kind of like a little kid almost, but he's not annoying like a lot of child characters in RPGs. He's a fairly likable character too. And characters tend to stay with you longer in this game. The first Grandia, characters would always join and leave you at certain points. In this game, it's not really like that, which is a little different. But yeah, characters leaving you is not too bad in Grandia. And we'll talk about that in the gameplay. But yeah, I don't know really what else to say with the story. It's not terrible. I don't think it's a terrible story. It's just not terribly involving, I guess. It's mainly the characters that you'll really like here, and that's kind of what pulls you through. Although there are some interesting aspects of the story. Towards the end, I think it gets a little silly. It gets a little over dramatic too at times towards the end. But overall, yeah, kind of the story's all right, but the characters are great for sure. So yeah, let's talk about gameplay now. Grandia 2 has an amazing battle system. It's fairly similar to the first, which already had one of my favorite turn-based battle systems, where you have kind of a meter at the bottom. I think it's called an IP meter, and little icons will be on this kind of bar for the enemies and your characters. And there's kind of like an act part of the bar, and then an execute kind of part of the bar, where basically once your character's icon gets to the act portion of the bar, you can input a command. And then a little after that, once the icon moves to the execute part, your character will take that action. And you always have to pay attention to this because you can basically cancel enemies' attacks. So if you see an enemy's icon and it's about to hit the part where they're going to actually get a command out, you can use a critical, and you can kind of attack them before they can use like a magic attack or something like that. So you can kind of cancel out their attacks, and you have to take into account distance because you've got like a field view, and so if you can kind of judge distances and see if you can be able to like pull off a critical. There's like your standard combo attack that you can use, and you can even counter enemies that way too. You don't have to use a critical to stop an enemy's attack, although it's really for the best when you want to stop like a certain magic attack, and you can see what attacks enemies are going to use. If an enemy is going to use a heal, and one of your characters is able to use one of their abilities to cancel that, you can go ahead and do so. Each character has a few different skills that they can use, and it's this like really amazing turn-based battle system. There's quite a bit of strategy to it, and it's fun. It's I'm trying to think like the differences between this battle system and the first Grandia, and I can't. I mean, it feels like it's more fluid, but I can't quite remember like the main differences. But I feel like the battle system here is just a lot better, even though it's the same kind of thing. Other than the battle system, it's got a pretty linear progression like the original Grandia, where you don't actually have an explorable world map. You just have like kind of a world map with like a list of places you can go, and there are kind of like these field areas, and there's a few dungeons that can kind of connect these field areas and towns. But there's a decent amount of exploration in the dungeons and the field areas, and especially the towns, which are all really lively. And it's kind of got like that old school RPG thing where every time you come to a town, there's like a problem that's going on, and you have to kind of solve the town's problems. Which I don't know. I always kind of like that. It gets me kind of nostalgic in a way. And character progression in this game is really awesome too, where in battle you get special coins and magic coins, and basically like you kind of use these coins. There's like you have like one pool of these coins for each character, or for all the characters. Like each character doesn't have their own magic and special coins, but say you have 1,000 special coins, you can use that to give your character some new abilities, and these will cost SP if I remember correct. And you can either upgrade abilities or get new ones with your special coins. And with magic, you can upgrade your character's magic abilities. And magic abilities are handled pretty interestingly in this game. I think the original Grandia was like this too, where you have mana eggs, basically, that you equip on your characters. And each mana egg can give a character a different types of magic. So one egg might give you like water and blizzard magic. So you kind of level up the magic with magic coins for that egg, and you can actually take that egg and equip it to a different character. So that's kind of interesting, right? Because you've got this high level of customization. And if a character leaves your party, you can take the egg that they had equipped and put it on another character, and that character will kind of have the same magic that that character had. So you can kind of build your characters in certain ways. You can focus on, like, for instance, two of my characters were focused on strength. And I guess we'll talk about skill books too. There's skill books you can find where they have their own different abilities that you have to spend coins to get. For instance, a strength ability that basically every time you upgrade it, it gets like between +5 and +50 strength. And once you have that skill, you can equip that on a character. So you can kind of create your own characters in a way, or character builds. So one character, I gave them a bunch of like strength abilities. And then like I gave them an item so that their combo attack could extend to like 4 hits. So they were like kind of like a really powerful melee character. And then I had 2 magic characters. One was kind of like almost a dedicated healer in a sense, with some blizzard magic as well. So like the character progression is just really fun. I really liked it in this game. Like it's not the most complex thing ever, but it's enjoyable. And I think there's a good amount of customization here, and it's not overwhelming or anything like that. The dungeon designs they're okay. I mean, there's some very light puzzle solving, but basically you're just trying to get from point A to point B. They're not too maze-like, luckily. Some of the later dungeons got a little bit maze-like, but they weren't too bad. It's the field areas are kind of maybe. The level design's not the greatest, I guess, I would say, but, I've seen far worse in RPGs, so I didn't mind it so much. No random encounters, like with the first Grandia. You can see enemies on the map, and you can get, like, an initiative attack if you kind of hit them from the behind or whatever like that, and if they hit you, they'll get a surprise attack on you, so that's really great as well. I'm trying to think. I mean, that probably about covers it with the gameplay. I mean, it's not the most complex RPG ever. It's a fairly simplistic RPG, but it's enjoyable. Like, the battle system is just so much fun that I actually wanted to fight every battle that I ran into. And at the end of the game, I was around level 55, I think. It's around a 30-hour game. It took me a little over 30 hours to complete, which I thought it would be a little bit shorter, and it is shorter than the original Grandia, which took like 45 hours. But this one, it felt like it was going to end like 4 different times. I thought the game was going to end, and it just keeps on going and going. There's save points that allow you to recover all your health and magic and things like that, and that I really appreciated. Now, there's not a whole lot of save points. You're going to have to go like 20 to 30 minutes without save points sometimes, but the fact that you can heal at them is just great, and they always put one in front of bosses, which is fantastic as well. But you know what? I will say Grandia 2 is an extremely easy game. In fact, this is probably one of the easiest JRPGs I've ever played. I actually didn't get a single game over. And the first Grandia I thought was a really easy game as well. There was one boss that gave me a little bit of trouble, and I actually got a game over on him a few times. But this game I think is even easier than that. And yeah, I didn't get a game over. The final boss is a complete joke. Like, one of the easiest final bosses I've seen in an RPG. So, I could almost see the argument that the game wastes its amazing battle system with the lack of challenge, but personally, I didn't care too much. It wasn't enough to make me hate the game or anything like that, and the battle system is just so much fun, despite the game being very easy. Now, there is a hard mode, though, that I kind of wish I had chosen, but I went with the normal mode because I thought, well, that's normal. But normal is basically like very easy or something like that. But I have a feeling hard mode would maybe be too hard. And some of the bosses do have a little too much health, in my opinion, especially towards the end. So yeah, I don't know if I would have enjoyed hard mode all that much. But yeah, very easy game. But yeah, gameplay, that about covers it. It's definitely the game's strong suit. It's really fantastic. Okay, so visuals. This is a sort of early 3D game, so it doesn't look fantastic. The environments are very blocky. The characters don't have mouths for some reason. I guess because they didn't want to lip sync them for the voice acting. But it's kind of jarring, actually, the character models, because of the no mouths. So yeah, it's not a great looking game, I'll be honest, but it's it is what it is. It's it's a Dreamcast game. They've kind of spruced up some of the textures for this PC version. Of course, it's in HD, but yeah, it shows its age kind of. But it's actually I don't think the visuals are as quite as Grandia. The first Grandia looked pretty dated as well, but that game had more of like a charming look to it, and it had that classic PS1 look. That a lot of those PS1 RPGs have that I just love. And this game doesn't have that because it's a very early 3D game. So yeah, it's not a great looking game, but that's again it doesn't bother me all that much. I'm not graphics isn't something that I'm like I don't love good graphics. Like I don't care if a game has amazing graphics. Um, but I want to talk about the monster designs in this game. Uh, Towards the end of the game, some of the monster designs in this game are like really grotesque. It's weird. Like some of the monster designs in this game are like pure nightmare fuel. I was kind of impressed at how weird this game gets towards the end with its enemy and boss designs. It's something you don't see in a lot of JRPGs. Very very odd, but I kind of dug it. So yeah, audio. Let's talk about the audio. Soundtrack, great. Soundtrack is just as good as the original Grandia. My favorite song though is one that was in the original Grandia that plays when you're in the food eating scenes where when you go to an inn and you eat, your characters kind of sit around the table and eat, and they kind of have like these conversations with each other that are kind of remind me of the skits and in the Tales games. So I really like those segments. I liked them in the first Grandia. I love them here as well. And the music that plays for those is just fantastic. I do think the soundtrack in the first Grandia is probably better, but the soundtrack here is very good. It's very kind of like upbeat. It's not like really melodic or anything like that. There's no really like slower, sad songs in this game. It's all kind of like happy kind of music, but it fits the game. And the game, you feel like you're on this grand adventure, like with the original Grandia. And the world in general, I think, is fairly interesting. But there's voice acting in the game, like with the first Grandia, and also like with the first Grandia, there's not too much of it. Most of it is just, reading. The voice acting, though, for a Dreamcast game, it's pretty good. It's actually pretty good. I think it's better than the first game. But, like I said before, Elena's voice, I hate it. Every other character was fine, though. Every other character I thought had a good voice actor. I think Cam Clark voices Ryudu. So yeah, actually quite good voice acting. I mean, the voice acting quality is good, too. Like, the actual sound quality. But I wish there was more of it, actually. But at the same time, it also kind of gets a little... The voice actors and actresses kind of like... I don't know, they're a little overdramatic with some of the lines, especially towards the end of the game. That kind of... I don't know. It didn't quite gel with me all that much. But overall, the voice acting is still good, I'd say. Yeah, I'm trying to think, like, I mean, I guess that's it. We've kind of covered everything. It's... If you like the first Grandia, you'll like this. I think if you like JRPGs, you'll like this. It's a really fun, enjoyable experience with some really great characters. Now, whether or not I prefer it to the first one, I actually don't know. There's things I like better in the first game. Like, I think the cast of characters overall, I probably preferred in the first one. I much preferred Fina to Elena in this game. And the story, I think even though it was simpler in the first game, I still liked it better. But the battle system is better here. I think the dungeons are probably better here. The character progression, I think, is better here as well. So, I don't know. I think I'm probably going to give the edge to Grandia too. Not by much, but I think I do prefer it. Now, Grandia 3, I've heard, as far as story and characters go, is not that great, but the battle system is apparently amazing. So that's going to be a game. I don't see myself playing that anytime soon. If I've completely run out of RPGs to play, maybe I'll try that one. But yeah, I don't see myself playing that anytime soon. But yeah, that's Grandia 2. Great game. Really enjoyed my time with it. Highly recommend it if it looks good to you. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.